Hi friends! Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about pacing and specifically my top tips for pacing, things I've learned over the years for if you have a chronic illness or energy limiting condition. I've had an energy limiting condition that I've been kind of mostly self-managing at this point for about 10 years now, which is scary and kind of blows my mind a little bit. But through those years, I have managed to amass quite a few top tips for dealing with energy limiting conditions and how to pace, and hopefully these tips will be helpful for some of you. I'd also really love if anybody who has their own tips or things I don't mention in this video could leave them in the comments below, because I would love to know any more top tips for dealing with pacing. So step number one is to decide what type of rest you need and to be honest with yourself about that. It can be tough to admit to ourselves when we need to stop and rest. I understand this. I have a compulsion to complete the to-dos on my list, but a big part of having an energy limiting condition is accepting that you're going to need rest, probably more rest than the able-bodied people around you. It's okay to feel fed up sometimes at the on-off, stop-start nature of rest and productivity in this way, but it is much, much better than the boom and bust cycle. And if you don't know what that is, basically it means that you're go, 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 and you're using up all the spoons completely unsustainably to get stuff done, and inevitably then you crash, and it can take days, weeks, or even months to come back to a baseline level of energy for you. And no one wants that for you, including me. So taking rest breaks along the way is a lot more productive in the long run than the boom and bust cycle and pushing yourself too far. So consider what type of rest and potentially how much rest you're going to need. This will help you plan your week, schedule in what you can do, and postpone what you can't. If you feel that you need total rest, see if you can take a day off if you're working, or postpone your daily tasks. Obviously, this is a privilege that is not accessible to everyone, and if this isn't accessible to you, then try to plan on your next day free that you're going to have nothing to do. Nothing in the schedule, nothing in the planner, just a day to sit and relax and get the rest that you desperately need. I know it's not as fun as going out and doing things, but you're going to be able to do more things in the future if you learn how to pace and work with your body rather than against it. While you wait for this day off, try to drop tasks that aren't vital and prioritize those that are. Step number two is to ask for help if you can. If you have a partner, friends, or family that can lend a hand when you're struggling, please try and make use of that. I know it's hard and we can feel like we're being a bother, but no, stop that negative self-talk. Our friends and family are in our lives because they care about us, and anyone worth their salt will help out if they can. That being said, it's a good idea to ask for what you need if possible. Otherwise, you may end up with a fridge full of lovely homemade meals, but what you really needed was some help to get to that appointment. Tip number three is to incorporate micro breaks into your daily routine. Now, I was skeptical about micro breaks at first. If I'm ready to collapse into the sofa after a few hours of desk work, I failed to see how 30 seconds to 2 minutes of a micro break was going to help deal with that situation. But I will happily eat my words, because micro breaks really can help. All this means is taking a short break at regular intervals throughout your day to stop, sit, take a few deep breaths, and maybe do some simple mindfulness exercises. One of my favorite ways to do this is just to sit, take 3 intentional deep breaths, and then notice 5 things I can see, hear, feel, sense around me. And I close my eyes and note any physical sensations I'm having, and then take a second to check in with how I'm feeling emotionally. You'd be surprised at how insightful this can be too, because sometimes I realize that I desperately need a cup of tea, or that my eyes have been stinging for like 2 hours now and I really need to find my glasses and put them on. Another great micro break exercise you can do is halt. This is where you stop and ask yourself the following: are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Sometimes we feel like the world is ending, but actually all we need is a snack. Tip number 4 is to use the spoon theory method or the traffic light method. To use the spoon method, grab a piece of paper and list down everything you do in a typical day. You can then assign a certain number of spoons per task, helping you understand which tasks during your day are the most difficult for you and the most tiring. Then you can more effectively prioritize, adjust, or delegate tasks that just take too many spoons. The traffic light method is a similar system to help you realize when you're overdoing it during the day. The idea is to stop at 10 AM, 2 PM, and 7 PM, stop and note down whether you are feeling red, amber, or green. Green means your energy is okay and you feel good. Amber is a warning that your fatigue levels are increasing and you should prepare to stop and take a break. And red means your fatigue is severe, and if you haven't stopped what you're doing, you probably should. It's recommended that you do the traffic light system for 3 weeks. I know this seems like a lot, but the idea is that it helps you get a broad overview of your everyday life, and it can help you to plan and assign a certain number of spoons in the future. Step number 5 is to not be down on yourself for needing your rest. This particular brain demon has a lot to answer for within the chronic illness community, I can tell you. I understand that this is easier said than done, and honestly I'm saying this as much for my own advice because I am just as guilty of it, but try not to be down on yourself for needing extra rest. It is not your fault, but it is something that you must do in order for you to function at your best. When this particular train of negative self-thought rolls into the station, I like to think about how resting now is going to help me later. For example, is resting now going to mean I can take a really lovely seasonal walk with my partner at the weekend or meet my friend in town? Is it going to allow me the energy later to cook a really nourishing meal that I'm looking forward to? Try to remember that rest does lead to positive outcomes in the end. Number 6 is to forgive yourself when you overdo it. And you will overdo it. I don't know anyone who would say they are perfect at pacing, they never overdo it, they never go over their limit. Life is complicated and unpredictable at times, and often things like a carefully crafted pacing plan is the first thing to go out the window during the chaos. And for all I do advocate for pacing, there are times when pushing yourself might actually be worth it, like a once-in-a-lifetime event or just something that you've really always wanted to do. To hell with the consequences. As good as we can get with these techniques over time with practice and care, we all slip up sometimes, and that's okay. What's important is to have a solid, tried and tested plan to return to when you need to. And that's where I hope these tips have helped. And number 7, if you're still really struggling, then reach out to a professional. I understand that sadly, if you live in a country where there is no universal healthcare, these kinds of things can be very expensive, and that's incredibly unfair. But I would always advocate for seeking out a professional healthcare team if at all possible when you're struggling. Even just a couple of sessions with an occupational therapist can help give you a plan and get you on the right track. If that just isn't an option for you right now, I recommend the book Classic Pacing, which I will leave a link to in the description. Even if you don't have ME, this is an incredible resource for pacing, and it gives you very slow, incremental steps you can take to get better at pacing and regain your baseline number of spoons. So that's it. Ta-da! I hope these tips have been helpful for those of you out there suffering with energy limiting conditions, and please let me know if you have any other tips in the comments. I would love to hear them. Please know that no matter how you're feeling right now, things can start to get better and you can start to manage your symptoms, even if you don't have as many spoons as you'd like to have right now. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please go ahead and like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, because that really helps out the tiny channel. And YouTube is mean to chronic illness creators who cannot post every single week, even though we're out here trying. In the same vein, if you do find these tips helpful, please feel free to share it with others. I would really appreciate that. I hope you're all doing as well as you can be, and I'm sending you love and spoons. See you next time. Bye. It's cold. Is that a spaceship? Like, what vehicle is that? Ugh. Or is it gonna cook? I can't know.